Hello and welcome to the Bold Leadership Story Show, where we talk about the experiences shaping exceptional lives. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Mr. Joe Fox of the Fox Fix, and I'm excited to hear his stories. He's been in this business for what, Joe, 45 years, you said?
That's correct, 45.
That's amazing. I don't think anybody's in business for any one business for more than 5 years anymore.
I don't know how to do anything else.
well, that's great. Yeah, you must be pretty good at it by now.
Yeah, as I say, I just got started 45 years ago.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's always good to when you get up in the morning to have something exciting to do.
That's
And
true.
so being at it for 45 years and being successful is a tremendous testament to your stalwart stick-to-itiveness and also, I'm sure, your leadership in that field. So I'm excited to learn more about your leadership and your stories. And so you started 45 years ago
Yes,
with your wife, and her name again, please?
Kathy.
Kathy. Yeah. So you and Kathy started this, and you mentioned earlier that you started it kind of with a group of people, and now you're doing it on your own. Um,
Yes.
so tell us a little bit about that story. How'd that get?
Well, sure. The group of people part was the first 10 years, and that did include about a year and a half of education. It was with at the time it was called, it's no longer in existence, the Polarity Health Institute, which was situated on a beautiful island in Washington State, right in the middle of Puget Sound.
Mhm.
That's called Orcas Island.
Oh
And
yeah, beautiful place.
I did this study called polarity therapy, which is a study of applied energy concepts pertaining to health, the human body and the brain and the mind, the emotions, and all of that.
Hmm.
And I felt I was quite adequately trained to the point where many years later, I didn't really feel like I needed a lot of extra training because there's a plethora out there. What I felt I did need was to make it my own in a certain way, because over time you find out what works, what doesn't work, and that's based on um, uh, does it work on people? Does it suit me and my personality, my style, those type of things.
Hmm.
So that was the
So
first 10.
that was a polarity that has to do with the electrical signals in our bodies.
Well, yes, it's all about the electrical energy system of the body, which is
Okay.
basically it's soul energy. It's actually stepped down from the spirit into the body, and the body uh, has. I'm trying to make this simple and not too airy. There's a
Please.
range in which matter exists.
Uh-huh.
If you're too dense mentally, emotionally, or physically, you can't function. If
Right.
you're too thin, mentally, emotionally, and physically, then you're too like vapid. So you have to work within a certain range of tolerance that allows for good functioning of the body.
Okay.
And so we tend in life, as all things do, any system tends towards entropy, falling apart.
Sure. Entropy is
You
the
would learn
natural
that in,
inclination of things to move to their natural state, which is disorder.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
I
it's a
learned that
funny
in, I think
it's
it
a
was high
funny
school.
MO in life, but that's what happens left to its own.
Sure.
So
Like,
people
like,
tend.
like my bedroom when I was a kid, there was entropy going on.
I'm sure that's not what your parents called.
I know they didn't use that. They like get in there and get your room clean.
Yeah, you slob, you.
Yes.
So people tend to, in that crystallization process, get denser and denser. We get stiffer and stiffer, both physically and emotionally. And then we reach where we just can't function because we've exceeded the range of tolerance that, in which we can perform optimally.
Okay.
So I
So how
don't
do
do
we get out
everything.
of order? How do we get out of dysfunction? How do we get into dysfunction? What things
Well,
are pushing us that direction?
we live in a world today where people by and large think they can do anything and everything. And they do that to excess. Uh, So you have, I call it the Superman or the Superwoman syndrome, where they have, the couple might have, couple, three, four kids. Each one has three, four, five activities. They're running around like crazy. They're told in life through their upbringing and culture that they can do anything and everything, and they
Mm-hmm.
burn themselves out. Meanwhile, they don't eat that well. They may not eat that well. They overdo it physically. They may work out way too much, for instance. That's a way
Mm-hmm.
that we become too bulky, too dense. I just worked with a young man today, young man meaning 40-ish. He was too bulky. I looked at the size of his wrist. His wrist tells me that he has a small frame. Here he had these massive muscles, and I have a couple clients like this.
Mm-hmm.
So
But it
they're
takes a lot of effort to do that, doesn't it?
yeah, but it's sort of supported because they think it's the way to be healthy, but it's actually become an addiction to them to have more and more muscle mass. Why? I don't know, other than at some point it gets in your way. If you look at these super bulky athletes who have muscles on muscles on muscles, they're stiff as dogs and they can't,
Yeah,
they lost, they have no flexibility.
I'm muscle bound. Sometimes I can't lift the drink up high enough to. No, I'm
That's a
kidding.
different kind of addiction. So anyway, that was my first 10 years of life, of life in this career. Uh, and what brought us to this area, since many of your viewers are going to be from our local area,
Yeah, the
we did
Temecula
Murrieta
Valley.
Hot Springs
Yep.
Resort.
Yeah, yeah. Which resort?
Murrieta Hot Springs Resort.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a famous resort here in
Yeah,
Temecula Valley.
yeah. Took us a couple years to open it. It had actually been closed for about 15 years. Prior existence was.
That's got quite a history. That
Yeah,
was
it was a cancer cure place and they were shut down.
yeah.
It
So
lay
you
idle
were
for about
involved with a
15
group of
years.
people that came in and purchased the property
Yeah,
and refurbished it
right.
and
And at
opened
that
it
point,
again.
we had probably, I wasn't with them for all that time, but at least 5 years of history or more, maybe closer to 10, before I got to the scene of people. And
Mm-hmm.
then there was just a lot of growth. So over the years, we had several facilities successively, and sometimes more than one facility at one time, just to be able to present our work to the clientele, students basically, who would come to us from nationwide and around the world in some cases. It was
Okay.
a cool thing.
Yeah,
And
it sounds like a cool business model. So your expertise. Let me here. I'll show your website here real quick so everybody
sure,
knows what we're talking about. I'm going to pull up your total health natural care for prevention and remedy.
that's a mouthful right there, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Well, it's good you've got your little explainer video there. I won't play it right now, but I encourage anybody who wants to learn more to check that out. It's at totalhealthfx.com. And then you'd go to the services to body care right here. Click on that and it'll take you to this page. And then you can learn all about what Joe's Fox Fix is all about.
That's what they call it. So that's what I call it because that's what they called it.
So you were involved with a group of people who were they were investing in, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were investing in health resort real
Well, they
estate.
would go to a health resort. What they were investing in is the first program that we had was about a 3-month program. So it's an immersion health program where they were learning how to take excellent care of themselves
Wow. So they'd lived there for 3 months.
on that island at first, and then
Okay.
other places, and then Murrieta Hot Springs.
Uh-huh.
And then there was a later program uh, or successive program, which is for those people in there that wanted to have a career change and that they wanted to become a practitioner of polarity therapy, which I did. And that's where I met Kathi, actually.
Okay.
And that was, there was a 3-month gap for us, for me, in between programs. Kathi had done the more personal one a couple years earlier. And then she was actually able to practice at a health resort separate
Okay.
enough information to actually get started in the field, but then she wanted more. And
How's
so
Kathy
we met.
still in the picture?
Pardon me?
Is Kathy still in the picture with you at the
Oh,
business?
yes, we're very much a picture. Oh, is she in there? If you looked under the Naturopathy FX tab, you could see a picture of her.
Okay, cool. Let me bring
Actually,
that
do you
up.
see the artwork behind me?
I do.
That is, she's become an artist, and
So,
partly
wow,
for art
that's her.
therapy.
So
That's a picture of Mount San Jacinto that she
wow,
has done.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Out in the desert.
Yes, you get
One
two
of
for
my
the price of
favorite
one.
places. So I'm looking at nutrition and lifestyle, and I'm not seeing.
If you go to the services tab again and go to under
Oh,
body
there it
care
is.
effects,
Okay,
there's
cool. Let me bring
naturopathy
this up.
effects.
Yeah, we'll bring that up so we can show
So she specialized
Kathy.
in more there you go. That's a picture of her from a few years ago.
Okay. So yes, and she's got an advanced degree, right?
She is a
PhD.
naturopathic practitioner.
Okay.
Yes, she doesn't practice too much anymore. Of that, she freely gives advice. She runs our food co-op. So the backside of my business card is her side. I always
Hmm.
call it a holistic card because we have a holistic practice. But
So I
she
was
runs
going to
our
bring
food co-op, which is right there.
yeah, so you're doing the total FX with the body care, nutritional consultation, food co-op,
Mhm.
and that's all local here in the Temecula Valley.
Yeah, like if a person did all those things, they'd have pretty good lifestyle and they would be getting healthier. It's our version of what we did in our programs over the years, except not immersion.
Okay. Very cool.
I
So
did I
how
did
did
the
that work
immersion
out
thing.
when you came here to the Temecula Valley and in the and got involved with the spa there, the hot spring spa?
Well, that was our greatest adventure. It was a much larger facility than we ever had before, and our staff became much larger also, up to about 100 adults who were all trained therapists doing all the odd jobs that happen in a hotel resort, including the therapy and the mineral waters and the mud baths and the
Mm-hmm.
cooking of the vegetarian food and the vegan food and the exercise classes and the facials and the massages and everything. But also the things like the hotel, both the front desk and the making up of the rooms and the vehicles. We had our own fleet. When you have 100 people, you have to have a fleet
Mm-hmm.
of vehicles, etc. We had a staff of people that maintained the facility. They were all trained therapists, but somebody had to run the hardware of the facility.
Sure.
And so
Yeah,
that,
that's a world class. I understand it's been acquired recently and is
yeah,
being refurbished again.
it will be. They're closed for about a year and a half, and it's probably maybe 4 to 6 months into that. And I'm anxious to see how it turns out. I wish them well.
Yeah,
So we did
that's
that for a number
exciting.
of years. The only difference between that and our other facilities from time to time as we graduated to that level of exposure is this is the first time uh, in our history at the time that it was actually open to the general public. The other
Mm,
places came, you had to be in the immersion program.
interesting.
So this time we had, and of course, our community in the when was it? The early 80s was much smaller. There was no Temecula city. There was no Murrieta city. There was no other city. They were little villages.
Right.
And right behind the hot springs is this complex of mobile home park up on a hill. And that pretty much was the local people. In fact, many of them actually made the hot springs an investment. We solicited and they were anxious. So they became some of our regulars. But soon after that, uh, it caught on far away. So
Mm,
people in LA, people in Orange County, people in San Diego, who would naturally be going out to the desert for their rest and relaxation, and not
hmm.
to San Diego, to Palm Springs,
Right.
would come here because it was closer and it was way more fun. They could
All
get
right.
everything all in one place and not be in a city like Palm Springs. Nothing wrong with Palm Springs,
Right.
Just that it was very rural at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the food was right there with the body work and the mineral baths and everything else. And they just loved it. So what happened over time, I was never involved in the education program, the 3 months programs. I
Okay.
always seemed to be either a therapy or management of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked on a number of people who came from these urban cities and locally. And when it came time, we finally reached a point where we wanted to dissolve the organization. That's a whole other story, and not altogether wonderful and happy. But you make lemons out of lemonade, right? Uh,
Sure.
Same time to dissolve, I thought it would be an adventure. And I told the people that I was seeing there regularly, maybe they came once a week, maybe they came once a month. Look, I'm going to go to LA, and would you like to see me there? I can come to your home. And I think at the time I was charging $60 an hour. I didn't think that my travel was their fault. They didn't have to pay for it. I've since
Boy,
changed
have
that a
things
little bit. And of
changed.
course, over years, your price structure changes. But and I had an instant business, and it was wonderful. And then I discovered for that gave me a growth curve that was like this steadily for about 20 years, where I would go to running races. Now I'm not a runner, so I wasn't aware that running races was such a big thing and in a city and county as wide as Los Angeles, there's one or more every weekend. It was for me to pick and choose. I made
Mm.
science out of it over time, and I'd have a good batting average in terms of recruiting business.
So tell
Um,
me, Joe, what was it that you were doing for the runners? So were you going
I
and
would
visiting
give
them?
demonstrations of what was to become what I called manual therapy. Probably at the time, I called it sports massage. Never studied sports massage, but I know bodies and I know athletes. And I just apply my basic polarity therapy skills into what the body is needing.
Mm.
And there are different touches. It's not massagey, no sliding on the body. I don't use oil. They don't have to be undressed.
So are you doing like specific pressure points
Yeah,
or are you
I'm
hitting?
actually doing their specific pressure points. You touch the
Okay.
body and you find the pressure points. It's not the pressure points that some book says go here, this means that.
Uh-huh.
It's like what is in that person. And if you were to look at it as what happens in the course of a treatment, whether it's 15-minute treatment or an hour treatment, all the different pressure points that they have are actually an electrical circuit.
Okay.
So that's the circuitry. That's what's off for that day. And I bring that into balance. In other words, I use different kinds of touch, different depth of touch, different angle of touch, different, if there's movement involved or direction of touch, all these different ways of gauging my touch, deep, moving, light or subtle might call, so that I get the body to let go.
Mm.
And letting go infers they're holding on to something and how they're holding on to something. And that's just called a person is overflexed and understretched.
Okay.
So
So help me understand when you say holding on to something,
something,
what
yeah.
things are they
Well,
holding on to?
physically speaking, I'm talking physically. So what happens when the body is overworked or overstressed and understretched
Mm-hmm.
is that their muscles remain flexed. So
So
that a person who
not tight,
exercises,
but flexed. When you say
yeah,
flex,
their
tight?
muscles are at work. They
Okay.
keep their muscles at work. So when you feel stiff, I'm sure you do at times.
From time to time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're old enough. Um, that's on a musculoskeletal level. It's because your muscles. We taught ourselves to flex. We didn't teach ourselves. We never stopped the flexing, so we didn't unflex.
I see.
Now,
Okay.
the physiological definition of relaxation is simply unflexing. It doesn't
Makes
mean
sense.
it doesn't mean let's dream about Hawaii. It could, but if you simply unflex what is flexed, not only will your body be relaxed, but the pain of the pressure point will instantly disappear, no matter instantly, suddenly, and no matter how hot, so to speak, that pressure point is, because sometimes they are. And I'm looking for that. I'm not creating it. I'm looking for it.
Okay. Well, let's switch gears for a little bit. I love
Sure.
learning about what you're doing. I'm
It's really an
always
experience.
looking for ways to get healthier.
Good.
So it's always fun to learn from people who know what they're doing, especially in the functional world, where functional medicine, where you're not having to take medications to fix yourself. You're actually learning to what your body does, how it works, and learning ways to improve your daily health and have a better day each day, right?
You know, you yourself, you're an anomaly. That's not the basic, that's not your basic person.
Well, tell me about that. With the like, I've never been the normal guy, but
No, I get that.
but I understand from a marketing perspective and sales perspective that, it takes a real leader to, especially when you started 45 years ago.
Yeah, we were pioneers.
Yeah, you're pioneering. So you were doing a lot of really bold things, and you're still doing bold things. Even
There
though
were,
today I think more people are aware of what you're doing, you've still got to be out there making bold decisions
right,
about how to present yourself.
right. At the time, 40, 50 years ago, there were health resorts. They weren't fat farms, although those that exists. They were largely places that did, I'll just use the word detox. They were doing cleansing programs.
Right.
And that stuff we included. In fact, we cross-hired, so to speak, people from that field to administer that level of the education we were providing at the time. But what was unique was as adding this body work element at the same time. It was very powerful. These days,
Why do you say that? What was powerful about it?
it makes it much more holistic and synergistic. So when you do more than one thing and you ask the question, what makes people different, is that I find that your basic person that you're not is a one-trick wonder. They want one thing to do that's good for them. So it's not holistic. It may be a good thing, like
A holistic
I'll exercise, I'll run.
it's not like well, holistic in terms of, just so that I understand, you're talking about the whole body.
The whole body, but specifically, for instance, you'll have people who run. You'll have people that eat well. You'll have people that like to sort out their mind one way or another. You have people who like to do yoga, etc. But if you did all of those, that's holistic, because you might have 5 parts, but the sum of the parts is greater than the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. That's the buzz phrase about holistic.
Sure.
So if you do multiple different things that are good for you, then it has a synergized effect, and it's greater than the sum of the parts.
I see. Okay. So adding your expertise of the body manipulation.
Well, then again, I'm holistic in that I can teach these things to people, and I do many of those things myself. I would say most of my clients are not really holistic, but I love taking care of them as much as I can, or as much, they're like, for instance, just a general fact, most of my clients are not vegetarians. Maybe 1 or 2 out of, so many over years.
Right.
It may be who I just attract and what I'm guided to do, but I can pull in. I'm also holistic in the way that I'm very malleable with how I use my hands. I'm very malleable. Like I was working with this guy. He's a man, so I'll call him Manny.
Okay.
He's funny. Maybe his name. It may not be his name. Manny is a super athlete. He likes to work out like crazy just about every day of the week to create great bulk in his body, which I've already talked about. A little much for his body frame. He
Okay.
also enjoys doing uphill mountain biking over the weekend. And these are these guys who go for hours and hours of biking without motors, no e-bikes, and are pushing their bikes uphill using their legs and their stamina. And that is, I mean, running is one thing, but moving uphill with a bike and you is a whole other thing. And they like this. Now, for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's like way too much work.
Well, I
I
used to
don't
do some of
thrive
that. I
on,
used to
I mean,
live in a
I can go
place.
whack weeds for several hours a day, because I live in the country,
Okay.
but I am not gonna, and I can do a 30-mile e-bike ride, but I'm
Yeah.
not, these other things are too much work.
Well, so what's coming up for you? What's next for Joe?
Well, more of the same, actually. I enjoy the work I do. I don't do that much of it. I have a small clientele these days. I probably have 40 distinct appointments a month. So that means some people are going weekly, some people every other week, every 3 weeks, some people monthly, a few new people here and there. I don't kill myself. I got enough to live on, for us to live on and everything. More of the same. I'm at that age. I'm actually contemplating at some point. I'm 70. At some point I may want to
You're
retire.
70. Wow, you look great.
Thank you. I may want to I mean, I do want to retire. I'm trying to put it together how I can do that. I don't see doing this at 75. I had a friend who worked in the field. He worked till he was 85.
Mm-hmm.
Had a very short retirement, mostly. Uh, well, he just ran out of body vitality. So he had to be taken care of a lot. And,
Right.
I'd like to have a life that's not like that ever, or if it is ever much later. I got some genes that go that way. My dad's almost 101.
Wow.
So I just keep on keeping on. Love doing what I do. I would say it improves itself by the week. Anytime I take some time off, it's kind of like a re-education, reorientation process, even if it's for a weekend. But if I take a
Mm-hmm.
week off, what am I doing with these hands? What am I thinking? What's my self-talk while I'm doing this? What am I conjuring up here? How this work really works? I'm doing that all the time, and then explaining it to people. The letting go process, for instance, is very quantum. We have a brain; it works like a computer. Uh, that's organic. It's like a computer because it's got lots of dipole switches. Turn it on, turn it off. Turn your muscles on, turn your muscles off, just for example. But
Mm-hmm.
when the nerve cells, which are called neurons in the brain, come together and intersect others, that's called oh my goodness. It's the joint of the brain. I lost my
Oh, no worries.
definition.
So yeah, so that
So
your
that, and
brain
what
is
happens is
always
it's,
continually updating and changing and it's very
yeah,
malleable.
right. So what happens at that point, the signal goes across from one nerve to the other, down your spine to the muscle place, the joint,
Mm-hmm.
sends a signal. But at the same, in order to do that, where the joint occurs is a spark of light. And what do we know about sparks of light?
Well, they have energy.
Yes. And how fast does light move?
86,000 miles per second,
Right. So that's the
something like that.
speed of light. So that is the chemical and physical counterpart, or not counterpart, but part of what makes instantaneous release of something that is, for at least that moment in time or over a long period of time, been held on to. And that's how people can just let go like that. So I keep
Hmm.
developing that. And the more I talk about it and share that to the extent that I need to, I don't just come out with a dictionary for or an encyclopedia every session. And some people get it right away and may not have to talk about it. They're that coordinated, body and mind or body and brain, that they can let go. They're just prompted. Okay, that hurts. I'll let go. Boom. But some people And some people never get it because they don't have that integration. But
Hmm.
hopefully I see less and less of that because most of the people I work with are real regular people at some basis, and they know what I'm up to. They know, and they start laughing at themselves, seeing that they're holding on. I remember one lady, young lady at the time, this was probably about 15, 20 years ago, and she started laughing. She says, I know I'm holding on, Joe, but I don't know how to let go. And I said,
I've
just do
fallen and
it.
I can't get up.
Yeah, just do it. It's just like that. I have fun
So
doing this kind of thing.
Joe, is this maybe like a lost art? If you retire, is there anyone else doing this anymore?
I don't know of anyone. And you talking about leadership in the field, I'm not the type to go around doing seminars and stuff because I don't feel like I'm done yet. You
Okay.
know, I feel like I'm a leader to my clients. I certainly lead them and I use my authority when I am with them.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I'm very much a commander, but I'm in a gentle way. I'm telling them what to do. I'm giving them instruction like a yoga teacher. A
Sure.
yoga teacher gives instruction, relax this, relax that. And sometimes they bark out so many commands that everybody starts laughing. And that yoga teacher does too. I've had that experience. Is how can you let go or stretch 10 things at one time? It's difficult, but it can be done. And it's sort of funny that we hold on when we can just as easily let go.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So you're helping people to let go of their their stress, their pain, their
Yeah. And
emotional baggage.
the interesting thing is I don't have to go into emotional work about it. You know, I was actually trained in an emotional technique. I was never really good at it. I don't like to be probed and stuff myself. I have a
Uh-huh.
hard time even in the growth field, the personal growth field with systems that say there's this personality and that personality and that personality and that personality. I'd have a hard time figuring out who I am. I don't like that. It's too confusing for me. It's never been made simple enough for me to work with other people. So
Mm-hmm.
if a person is, and it's hard, very hard for me, I'm actually a shy person. It's very hard for me to say that's anger or that's fear or you're angry, you're exhibiting fear, you're greed. It's very, very difficult for me to do that stuff. So here I can be therapeutic without going into areas that I'm not comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
And people just get it. And quite frankly, I think that they are the kind of people that don't want to be probed emotionally. So I guess, if I were to have a type, that's a type. They want the release. I've certainly found enough people who want the physical touch. And it's
Mm-hmm.
funny because I'm not a touchy person. If I come up to you, I'm not going to give you a massage on your shoulders unless you ask for it. I'm not even going to really pat your back. Lately, I can just do a little shoulder thing like that. But not much. I'm not naturally a touchy person. And believe it or not, I'm quite shy.
Well, looking at the photos of your process, it looks to me from the images on your website that it's a lot like, the setting is a lot like going to a chiropractor.
It is, and that's where I get a lot of therapy because I don't find therapists like myself, and I don't want to waste my time and money uh, uh, doing that when I can go to a chiropractor and they sort of get it, and it's different, and it's available, and it helps me. So I go every other week.
Yeah, I use chiropractic. It's great.
Yeah, and they're very complimentary. What I mean, my ideal partnership with somebody would be, that we work with some clients who want both because they're certainly compatible without taking away from one or the other.
Hmm. Well, very great, very good. So I wanted to ask, our time is about up. So it's gone quick. Love learning what you're doing. A bit sad that it sounds to me from this brief discussion that you're like one of the last of a breed that is really steeped in some real cool knowledge. And it'd be sad to see that go.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I think it'd be nice to have a protege, but nobody's been, attracted to me in that direction, and I'm not going to advertise it.
Yeah, well, maybe this somebody will watch this show, and maybe
Yeah,
somebody
maybe.
will contact
Yeah,
you and say, hey, I'd like to
yeah,
learn more about that.
yeah. I mean, that would be nice. I could
That would
train
be
somebody to
cool.
work on me. That would be nice.
Yeah,
That's how I
right.
would do it because I'm not a curriculum writer. And, I was not really involved in the education process, of the polarity therapy. Other
Mhm.
than as a student, I actually studied to be a practitioner, not a teacher.
Well, and
I
that,
teach
but
from
the
my
40,
experience.
45 years of practitioner knowledge is worth more than any theoretical PhD on the planet, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
You know,
years
so
ago, I was struck by people who were just out of massage school, which is uh, it's a great thing. It's different than what I learned. Um, it doesn't matter what the school is, but they wanted to start another school so that they could be the ones making the money and
right.
directing things. I figured if I ever did that, I'd have to be learning this for years so that I knew what I was talking about.
Well, yeah, and they say that if you do something consistently for 5 or a maximum 10 years, you're considered an expert. So I'd say you've probably earned more than your doctorate in terms of practical
Yeah,
knowledge about what you're doing and applying and
don't
getting
talk about it
results. So, well, do you have time for one more question?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, cool. What I asked this of everybody on the show, with looking at your whole life, what was the boldest leadership decision that you made, and what were the consequences?
Oh, boy, that's really something. Uh, I'll go back before that education. Incidentally, I became a vegetarian because a girlfriend in college, my second college that I went to, uh, another story there. She and her friends were all vegetarians, so I became a vegetarian then. So that was when I was about 20 years old, so 50 years ago.
That was
And
before vegetarian. Well, I was like,
it
people would
wasn't
look at
cool.
you
It
like,
wasn't cool at the
you
time.
must be from California or something. What are you doing?
No, I was actually in New England at the time, and I grew up in New
Okay.
York. Um, I spent my post-college 5 years basically in search. The degree that I got was ultimately not what I'm doing.
Like
Uh,
most people.
I had a bachelor's of science in community development. I found that through the internships that I was able to get because I was at the head of the class
Uh-huh.
was largely very bureaucratic type stuff. Did not like it. Very boring, and I did not like it. So I didn't have a go-to thing. So I kind of stumbled forward a lot.
Mm.
And I actually wound up getting sick at a particular point. That was my phone, I'm sorry. At a particular point 5 years later. And I stumbled on the Polarity Health Institute, not going there, but because I was visiting with a group of people uh, in the Northwest who were a quasi school. They thought they were doing great things. They were just a bunch of people teaching each other. It's cool enough. And I was going to go be with them because I had certain, it was just my next step. I was done with everything else before that,
Okay.
even though I was looking in some really beautiful places. I had met them at this community fair. 2 weeks later, I go visit them. We all get sick. Turned out to be hepatitis A from that community fair.
Wow.
So one of the people from that group also got it, the hepatitis A, had gone to the Polarity Health Institute on his own. He got it, started passing the hepatitis A on to the polarity therapy staff. They sent him back, said, we can't have it. Our facilities here are just not up to snuff to isolate this, and we can't have it become an epidemic. And they sent him back with a bunch of protocols, cleansing and some foot massage and other things uh, that were therapeutic in its own holistic way.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, you can take this, you can share it with your friends. Everyone can do it, or they can opt in, opt out. I had no choice. Doctors said I'd be sick for 6 to 8 months. I said, I will not. I was a cocky young man with nothing in this world to be cocky about at the time. And I, doing this protocol of different healthful things, I was better in 3 weeks.
Hmm.
Now, in this 5-year period, I sort of got used to, but it was very uncomfortable, of being not fascinated intellectually by anything. And so this was really a big grok for me, if you know what I mean, to find something that worked, that was out of my norm, and that it worked. And I read the books that he came back with, which are largely based on Ayurvedic principles.
Okay.
Ayurveda being the ancient medical system of India, still available. You can
Thousands of years old,
thousands of years old, what they
this
did without
database
having
of
to have
medical
allopathic
knowledge.
medicine. And I'm saying, I'm a bright guy. I haven't exhibited my potential brilliance in life yet on my own.
Mm-hmm.
School, yes, that didn't count for anything. I am completely fascinated by this. I can't even understand this stuff. And that was by stumbling forward enough, I was able to reach the point of making a decision. I'm going to go to this school because I'm better in 3 weeks. Doctor said 6 to 8 months, let nature take its course. There's nothing you can do about it. And when I pressed the doctor about that, he said, you can eat candy and you can eat potatoes. And I said, no friggin' way. If you know what I mean. And
I do,
I was
unfortunately.
gutsy
I've
there,
been on a journey, and I know those two things are
but
poison
it
for me.
was kismet, that all happened, because once I made that decision, I found faith, I found career, I found family. Not that I didn't have a family, I found a wife. I found somebody who was just perfect for me.
Mm-hmm.
Loved nature, who loved natural things, um, and wanted a healthful career also.
Mm-hmm.
And we both like living in beautiful places. I mean, that's all I wanted, even when I traveled. So that was the putting the planets in order for me. It just happened that way.
Okay.
But it was a mess before that. I was a very disillusioned young person.
There's
I
that
didn't know which way
entropy
to
thing
go.
again, right?
Pardon me?
There's that entropy thing again.
Yeah, yeah, true.
You put all the pieces together through the muck.
One could say divinely inspired in the fact that I couldn't have arranged this stuff on my own. It was completely, and this happens to many people, I think, that, if you're just following, quote unquote, your heart and doing what you think is the next best step without
Mm-hmm.
being completely analytical. Oh, my parents thought I was nuts. Traveling and backpacking for 2 weeks in the wilderness, and all kinds of hitchhiking in those days, and other things, uh, that were crazy, but I was led to them. And each one was basically inadvertently a stepping stone to the next thing. Like I said, stepping forward until it became clear, this is what I'm about to do.
Mm.
I get tingles.
Beautiful story.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
You're
And that
welcome.
led you to a very long and prosperous career of helping people through their aches and pains, and helping them to live a better life and have a better day each day.
Well, if you were to speak to any of my clients, you'd find that they're not dependent in a need sense, more a want sense, because my longest client I've seen him for 35 years now, from the end of Murrieta Hot Springs to the present,
Wow.
weekly. And he lives in LA, so I will even go there to see just him. We
Mm-hmm.
had a program that, it's enough money for me to go there and back and do the therapy in between. That's worth it for me if I don't see anybody else. And 35 years of that. He will want to see me for the rest of my life. And I just know that he's a little bit younger than me. When I started working with him, I was 35, he was 30. Now I'm 70, he's 65. We may outlast each other, but I don't think I'll be there for the very end for him. Not in this particular way, maybe as a friend.
Well, what a blessing. That's just great stuff. Well, Joe, our time is about up. So I wanted to thank you very much for joining me on the show today.
Fun.
And I appreciate you and appreciate the learning and all the teaching that you're doing and the service that you're giving to the community.
Yeah, maybe I can give you a little demo of it sometime.
Oh, I'd love it. Yeah, that'd be great. So have an awesome rest of your day, and we'll talk again soon.
I hope I'll see you at that next meeting where we met.
Yeah, the BEST meeting.
Yeah.
That was good. I enjoyed that.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Jim. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Talk to you soon.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.